All right, guys, we're back in the booth tonight. I wanted to thank our sponsor of the video, lurebuild.com. Jimmy has excellent blanks, eyes, stencils from Insane Custom Stencils. He has his own brand. So go check him out, lurebuild.com, for all your painting and lure supply needs. So let's get to it. All right, we are back in the booth this morning. And this is going to be a special video. We just wrapped up Mania II over in one of the groups, and I actually won, and I'm going to do a redo of the winning lure. It was the Square Bill Square Off Bluegill, and this was my lure that won. And we're going to do a repaint over this. So let's get to it. All right. We're going to be using an S-crank. I got these from Lure Build, Jimmy. I'm going to be using eyes from Lure Build and a special lure coat that I actually put on this bait to win. It actually really had a fantastic finish. I know y'all will be excited about it. I'm going to be switching over to it. And it's Lure Coat by Lure Build. You can get it at lurebuild.com from Jimmy. So let's get going. So what I'm going to do first is I've already put my white base Autoborne sealer. I put a coat of iridescent pearl from Golden on this. And then I have put one coat of UVLS, and I've let it dry. And I'm going to tell you why. When I use these 3D stencils, which I do love them, I've got a lot of them. Sometimes when you actually put them on, they kind of scratch the paint. So what I've learned is if you take and just spray a coat of UVLS or clear Autoborne sealer over it, it just kind of eliminates that. So we'll go ahead and get our stencil put together. And this is for the S-crank. The contest was really a ton of fun. There were so many good lures in it. I can't even tell you. I know all of them will catch fish. And it was a lot of fun, a good weekend. I really appreciate the support I got from everybody. I know it will be another fun contest next year when we do that. There was a lot of people in it, a lot of great painted lures. I know most of you have seen them over on Carrie's website, Custom Business Lure Group. They really looked fantastic. He just released the rest of them, and it's something for everybody to be proud of. They did a great job. Okay, so now that we got this on, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start out with some with a little bit of sepia. And I'm going to put a few drops in my gun. I'm going to be using my PS 771. And I'm going to cut my pressure down. And what I'm going to do is, I'm not going to put it in the vise. I'm going to try to do it here where you can see it. And what I'm going to do is, I like to spray from the top and let it just kind of fade on down the bait. I don't want it super, super dark. So I'll hit it a little bit heavy on the top, and then I'll just let it run on down. And then I'll flip it over, and I'll do the same thing. Just let it fade on down. Don't want it to be super, super dark, except up here by the top. Just lightly hit it and let that dry. And I still got a little bit in the gun, and I'm going to put that on the top, and then I'm going to put a moss screen on top. So we'll go ahead and take this off. I got these 3D stencils from Cedar Run. So if you're interested in that, he has a lot of 3D stencils. You see, it doesn't put them on there. You can see where it's darker on top, lighter. That's exactly what I wanted it to do. I wanted it to kind of fade down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to go ahead and just, I got a little bit left in here. I'm going to go ahead and just hit this top a little bit. Let it run down the side just a little bit. I'll let that sit and I'm going to clean my gun out. Sepia is a very good color. It's very versatile. You can use it in a lot of situations, but I like using them on a bluegill. And the thing with those bluegills are, I mean, I actually saw a lot of comments on the contest. And, you know, bluegills are different everywhere. I mean, where everybody lives, it's kind of funny. But it's true. They are just a lot different in color and patterns, and you got to kind of just paint what you feel like a bluegill is going to look like. And I feel they did that. They had a lot of really cool looking baits in there. It was fun to look at them. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take it and I'm going to put this moss green on the back, right over the sepia. I'm going to let it fade down. What it looks like to start. I just let it fade down. Kind of looks, you can see where the sepia and the moss kind of meet. Gives it a real neat look. And I got a trick I'm going to throw on top of that too to kind of give it a three-dimensional look. I appreciate Jimmy getting me some of the supplies that I needed to do that contest. The lure blanks, the eyes, the stencils, and the lure build epoxy lure coat. It actually really made my lure stand out. I'm gonna put this in the stand and let it dry. Okay. Let that dry. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little bit of blue on these gills, and the paint I'm going to use, it's actually a transparent Createx. It's called Maui Blue, and I'm just going to put just a little right here on the gills. I got to turn this in. I'm going to try to adjust my camera for this. When I got it in the stand, it kind of takes it out, so we can see that a little bit better. I'm not going to use a lot of this, just a little bit around the gills. That was too much. And I'm just going to put it right here. It gives it a hint of blue. That was a little more than a hint right there. Okay, so we'll come back and just put a little bit more right up there. A little bit darker here. Okay, right, and that's it. I'm not going to put a lot of that on there. Clean my gun out. I don't like mixing my colors, so I clean out between every one. And what I'm going to use next is actually it is an ink. It's an acrylic ink, and it's orange. And I'm going to put a little bit on this chest. On the lure I entered in the contest, I actually went down a pretty good bit on it. I liked it. I usually don't go that far on it. So let's get a little bit of this ink in the gun. If you've never used them, they're very, well, what I like about them is they're very vibrant in color. And they really make your lures pop. You just got to be careful spraying them. Make sure that you're definitely on lower pressure with the inks, because they're very airbrush friendly. And they spray very easy. And we're just going to put a little bit right in here and on the belly. Okay, that looks really good, really clean. Because like I said, most bluegills on their lateral lines, they kind of disappear as they get to the bottom. That's why I was telling you when I do use a 3D stencil, I like to go from the top to the bottom, and it kind of just let the paint fade down the bait, and it'll give it a little bit more realistic look in your end result. I'll clean the gun out. Let that dry for a minute. I'm probably going to go ahead and heat set that real quick. Then I'm going to put my fins on. I've already mixed the candies that I'm going to use, and I'll go over that in just a minute. Let me go ahead and heat set this. So the stencil that I'm using is actually from Russ Allen. You can also get these at lurebill.com through Jimmy. Jimmy has them. Oh, and they are excellent. I use them. I use these a lot. They're very versatile. So I'm gonna put a little bit of black carbon in my gun. Let me shake this up. Don't need but a couple drops for fins. You don't want to waste paint. I still got it on about 15 pounds. And I'm going to try to turn this up where you can see it. And let's see which one I'm going to use on this one. What did I use on that one? I used the one with a little bit of a point to it. And I think it's this one. So we'll go with it. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and do the fin first. And what I do is I try to line it up with the bottom of that gill plate, because you still have to put your ear on there. So what I'll do is this. I always test it on the stencil first, make sure my paint's flowing, which it's not. I guess I got a little dry tip. There we go. So we'll line that back up. And what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna get it started. And compressor, thank you. Sorry about that. I'm just gonna go on the outside of it. Take it off, and there you go. And the reason I go on the outside of it on my fins, and I know this was a little controversial, but I put white, a little bit of white on my fins and on my ear. Where I live, that's what they look like. A lot of people, you know, I think they had questions about that, but that is why. So I'm gonna line this up, and I'll go ahead and put this on here. We'll let that dry. I do that kind of dark. We can flip it over and go ahead and do this. I'll just do it upside down. It's not very hard. Just want to make sure that you dry your stencil off, because you don't want to stick a stencil on there and it'd be wet, and you smear it and ruin your paint job. So that's a good tip. If you don't use stencils a lot, just be careful on the flip side of them to make sure that you get. And I'm just going around the outside. And there you go. And then I'll come back, make sure it's dry. I'll line this up. Usually there's a line coming off of that gill. Just make sure you're lined up straight with it. Let that dry, and I'll go ahead and put my white in. This is not a hard bait to paint. I mean, it's really more about blending colors, just learning how to use your stencils, making sure that you got them lined up correctly, and you'll only get that with time, you know, and just doing it. I've done a lot of stencil work over the years. I'd hate to tell you how many lures I have painted. I couldn't even begin to tell you. I know I'm not the only one. I know I mean, I paint every day, but I'm not selling. I hadn't sold in years. I mean, every now and then I get the itch to do it again, but I kind of didn't want this to turn into a job for me. I work a full-time job somewhere, and I work a lot, so when I come home, I like to unwind and just, you know, come paint. I've got probably a couple thousand lures sitting here in my shop, but that's all right. I mean, I may start getting rid of them here soon. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to use actually a different white. I'm not going to use a pearl for this. I'm going to use a titanium white for my touch-up on this. I don't put a lot on there, just enough. And it matches the ones around where I live pretty good. And they actually catch fish, so I'm happy with them. Me and my fishing partner, Tom Owens, we fish them quite a bit, and that's the way we like them, and that's how I paint them. So what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna realign the stencil. I'm gonna lock my vise here. This is just a large fly tying vise. I get asked that a lot too. And I ordered that off of Amazon. I mean, I ordered it so many years ago. I don't know if they still have it or not. I'm sure they probably do. But I just line it back up, and I do the same thing with this. I'll just start spraying it over the black just to see it coming out, and then I'll just hit the middle, and I'll leave it alone. All I'm doing is putting a little bit on there. And then I'll put a little bit on the tail end of this. I don't know if we have hybrid bluegills here or what they're called, but they have the white. And I put a touch of it there, then we'll flip it over and go to the other side. Just remember what I said about the stencil. Make sure that you've dried off the side that you're doing so you don't stick a wet stencil onto your bait and have a bad day. I'm not putting that much paint on it, so it really doesn't, I can't really smear it. I don't put a lot on it. And there you go. I'll let that dry and we'll clean my gun out. And I'm gonna start using my candies. If you haven't used the Candy 2Os, you really need to start kind of playing with those. They're very good to use. Excellent game-changing colors for your baits, especially if you put them on right. So I'm actually going to be using 3 colors on this to finish it up. I'm going to be using lemon yellow. I'm going to be using poison green and dirt track brown. And the color I'm going to use first is I kind of use the candies just like I do anything else that I use. I kind of go light to dark. So I'm going to go with a lemon yellow first. And I just I'm not putting a lot on here, guys. I'm getting, and I'm going to show you how I'm going to do this. So I'm going to take it and I'm just going to go really from the lateral line up a little bit with the yellow. Just a little bit. Just enough. And I'll go to the eye with it. And I'll flip it over. And I'm going to do the same thing. I let just enough bleed down on that white just to give it a little bit of more color. So, I mean, I still want the white to be seen, the pearl, rather. But these candies are super transparent, so you're still going to see some of it. And I'll be honest with you, the candies are game changers. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to change my gun here. I'm going to dry. I don't heat set candies. I always hit them with cool air and let them dry. And I'm just going to dry it off with this cool air and dry the whole bait off, as a matter of fact. Because you don't want to layer candies wet on wet. They got to be dry. Put a whole lot on the top. I really just wanted a little bit of that lemon on the side. Just dry it off good. While we're letting that dry, I did want to thank Carrie and Shane again for having the contest and how they do it. It was actually a blast, and I really appreciate them giving me the opportunity just to be in it. It's a great group of guys and gals, really great artists. So what we're going to do now, I'm going to move to the poison green. And then I'm just going to go up just a little bit more. I'll go some on the top with this. I'm kind of going to stay off I will go over the top, even though I'm going to do one other color on top. And I'll let it bleed down just a little bit. I still want to be able to see my little hints of yellow, and I can still see it. Okay. I'm going to put a little bit right around the face here. Clean my gun out. I'm going to move to the last color, which is going to be Dirt Track Brown. I didn't put on this bluegill. I actually didn't even put any I did not even put any scale pattern in on it, and it turned out really nice. I mean, it had a really good color. Sometimes I put scale patterns on, sometimes I don't. I mean, I guess it's kind of like when I do my crawls. If I want to close the shell, sometimes I do, sometimes I don't. So now we're going to dry this off. It's going to dry the poison green. It's going to dry it off with my gun. Let that dry just for a second. Container and mix my UVLS up that I'm going to shoot on it when I'm done to lock all my colors in. And I'll put a little bit of bleed checker in that for the candies because I don't want them to run. But if you haven't used any of the Candy 2.0s, you're really missing out. It's gonna they were a game changer for me with the lures and some of the colors that I use. Just get you a couple colors and try them. Just make sure that you're mixing them with the UVLS because that's what you're supposed to do. You're not supposed to spray those candies straight on, for those who don't know it. So let's go ahead and load a little bit of brown in this. Like I said, these are transparent. They're super transparent. So you're gonna be a steal. And what I'm gonna do with this is I'm just gonna put brown on the top. So I'm gonna have brown. I'll have the poison, the lemon blending into the iridescent pearl with the orange belly, and it really just it really comes out really nice. Put a few shots on this. Put a little bit on the face here. Okay. And that is a fish catching machine where I live. So we'll dump whatever we got back so I don't waste it. I always mix way too much. Give you a hint on that. Just use a couple drops, maybe 2 or 3 of UVLS and 1 or 2 drops of the candy. It doesn't take much. It's a dye. It'll go a long way. I waste a lot of stuff, and I need to stop that. So I'm going to air dry this, and we're going to get the eyes on it. I don't have these same eyes. I got to get some more from Jimmy. I've ran out. I use that eye a lot. So I'm going to use one that's similar to it. And we're going to dry this off. Then we're going to take this stand down. And we'll set it there. And I'll readjust the camera so y'all can see. Get a little bit closer. And we'll get the eyes. And we'll take this bill off. The tape rather, not the bill. Go ahead and get it off. Because when I put the UVLS on it, I hit the whole bait. All right, Frank, I've got these gloves on. I don't have a whole lot of feeling in my hands. Hands are getting better, but I'm still having some problems. I want to get to painting again and doing some videos. Get this tape off. Okay, got that done. So what we'll do now, we'll get a couple of these eyes and put it in here. And we'll hit it with some UVLS and it'll be good to go. There's so many different ways you can paint these bluegill, or, I mean, you know, or sunfish. They're actually a sunfish anyway. They're in the sunfish family. There's just so many varieties of these things, it's not even funny. So that's what you get with the eyes. It's a very good looking bait. It's almost identical to my other one. So what we'll do, put these eyes up, get this up, put this back, and we'll go ahead and get some UVLS on that. And for those who have not seen my videos, the reason I'm doing it is UVLS will lock, and this is what it is right here. It is UVLS Clear Gloss 4050. And it's not a finished top coat. It's actually a paint protectant, a medium. Very good. You can use it with any of the Wicked paint line, any of them. So if you haven't been using it, give it a try. You'll see a whole different outlook in the colors of your bait. And I've changed to my bigger gun. So what we're going to do here, this looks like it's going to fall for some reason. You want to get this good and wet. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start. You want it to have a blue haze to it. And that looks pretty good right there. Put a little bit more on top. And there you go. Let me slide that back up. Let me clean this out real quick. You don't want to use UVLS in your gun either, because it will lock it down. Okay, so that's your finished product right there. See if I can get you a good picture of it. That is the bait that I used, the same color pattern that I used to win the contest. And again, I just wanted to thank everybody for your support. I'm not going to epoxy this today. I'm still waiting on another batch of my lure coat from Lure Bill to come in. I may do that on a separate, I am going to do a separate video on that so y'all can take a look at that, because that stuff is fantastic. You need to start getting it. Thank you for all the support in the contest. It was a blast. Hit the like button, subscribe, hit the bell notification so you know when I'm doing upcoming videos. And as always, I'll catch you next time. Thanks.